Hi, everybody. It's me, Mocha Mommy, and I'm bringing you my Black Women in STEM Live. So I have Intrigued Owl here. Intrigued Owl, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Mocha Mommy. Yes, I am a civil engineer.
Mhm.
I work in a private firm now, but I have worked in government as well. I'm licensed, which means I'm registered with the state that I practice in.
Uh-huh.
And to be a civil engineer, you do need about it's a 5 year degree, depending on how many classes you came into college with. But on average, it could be 5 years. And then in general, back in when I graduated,
Mhm.
you needed to work for 4 years, and then you would be eligible to take the test that grants you the actual license.
Okay.
And but now, in a few states, the rules changed where you can take the test a little earlier, but you still get the license after 4 years of practicing under another engineer. I work in transportation, so that's another, because when people hear civil, immediately they think
Building.
house, yeah,
Yeah.
building and
Mhm.
house.
Mhm.
But no, I work in transportation. I think a lot of people don't think that the roads, the bridges, the railroads that they use, there's a large group of people behind building them,
Mhm.
maintaining them, operating them, designing them, planning for them. I work in mostly preliminary engineering, the planning side, where you just decide where you're going to put it. Can you do it? Should you do
Right.
it? What are the impacts? So that's the part that I work mostly in.
Okay. So, what made you choose civil engineering in particular? Because we constantly keep hearing about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Mhm.
What made you choose civil engineering?
Well, it was, I guess, it was a little bit of a process. Actually,
Hmm.
when I was in high school, I was pretty good actually at chemistry. So at
Hmm.
first, I really wanted to be a chemical engineer or do anything that had to do with chemistry. So or industrial engineering, because I remember seeing this show on TV, and they were talking about how, what the industrial engineer did, for example, about designing certain products, like for
Right.
example, why your toothpaste, like if you have a problem, it's like, oh my god, the toothpaste people are not buying toothpaste fast enough. What do we do? Well, you make the hole bigger. So
Right.
so industrial engineering, sometimes came up with that kind of stuff. So I was
Right.
intrigued by that and intrigued by chemical engineering. But at first, I was always good at math. I think I'll just start with that. I was always good at math. So I figured, why not capitalize on that? That was my first thought. But when I started and I started taking all the chemistry classes, I honestly started seeing how boring it was.
Wow.
And then when I started really researching about what the job entailed, I started figuring that, it's a job that may be lonely. And I started finding myself more and finding out that I'm a lot more dynamic and I really like people.
Hmm.
And so civil was a much broader uh, place for me where I could be the people person that I am, because it does require a lot of coordination,
Okay.
and then still apply math concepts, and do other things. So it was a broader field that I thought I could use. It was more versatile. So
Okay.
that was the reason that I ended up in civil.
All right.
Mhm.
So, as far as like your education, I know you said it took about 5 years for your degree. Did you go to state school, Ivy League school, private school? Because I'm for the protection of privacy, but like what type of schooling did you go to? Did you go to a tech school that's known like a Texas Tech or a MIT?
Mhm.
What kind of school
Mhm.
did you go to?
Mm. Well, I went to a state school.
Okay.
I went to a state school, and then I, I think that's one of, since this is about
Mhm.
recommendation. It is good practice, to really research the school you're going to for these types of degrees. There's
Right.
some private school that may be great, but they're not good for certain degrees.
Right.
Yeah, they're not good for certain degrees. So you have to research in the state you're at. There's some state school that are actually very excellent for certain degrees. and
Right.
they're recommended, and they're as hard to get into as certain Ivy League schools. But
That's very true.
yeah, yeah. So no, I went to a state school.
Okay.
Honestly, I could say that maybe I could have done better, but
Right.
but
I think that's
no,
you're
no, not
honest.
better, not better. I don't regret it. I'm just saying that that was a lesson, to just research a little bit more, because some schools, depending on how new they are at offering certain degrees, they're not
Mhm.
accredited to offer certain degrees. So do your research to find out, what schools are better placed to offer your degree, even when compared to some Ivy League schools or private schools.
Right. I'm
Mhm.
so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said newer programs and accreditation.
Mhm.
Because as STEM starts to grow, a lot of schools are offering STEM programs to attract students, but they don't have the accreditation as of yet.
Absolutely.
Because they are trying to attract students in those majors that they know are have a huge demand in the job market. But sometimes those schools are not ready. So that's another thing. I'm so glad you pointed that out
Mhm.
about doing your due diligence.
Mhm.
Um, and also that you went to a state school, because I think
Mhm.
that so many of us think that we have to go to, I'm here in Texas, that we have to go to the Texas Techs or the Texas
Mhm.
A&Ms
Mhm. Mhm.
in order
Mhm.
to get a good education. But sometimes state schools can offer that for you too. So
Yes,
thank you for saying
absolutely,
that. Mhm.
absolutely. There's some state school in certain states that are absolutely stellar in certain fields, particularly.
Right. So talk to us. I know that you said that you were good at math. Um,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about for maybe students who some of the math and science, the core courses, may be a challenge. What would you suggest for them?
Well, oh, that's a good question. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. I used to be a math tutor as well. So
Okay.
that's what I did in college for money. I
Right,
tutored
right.
math.
Yeah, exactly.
So I try to capitalize on something that I could do. And what I used to tell a lot of students is that math is actually a language. It's actually a language. So you should approach it as like you learning, I don't know, Spanish.
Hmm.
And so what I would say, depending on where your struggle is. So if you struggle in one particular topic, I absolutely recommend to see your professor.
Right.
So that's your first resource, because I know when we were in grade school, if you're too close to the professor, sometimes it's a little bit of a problem, or the kids may tease you. I don't know, I'm not sure.
Uh-huh.
So but honestly, but in college, it's a different story, especially if you in STEM. You really want to get close to your professor, especially if you're struggling. They can help you. Now there are some professors that are I don't want to say
Right.
douchebags. There's always people like that. But
Uh-huh.
um, start there, and then with your TA, and then other students. Honestly, with civil and like it is in a lot of STEM fields, it
Mhm.
becomes a small community. It's a small
Right.
community, and we all always been together to do these homeworks, a lot of times, and projects. So rely on your on your, I guess I'm gonna call them teammates or college mates to get through. But go to your professor. Now, another thing that I would suggest that I think it's a big resource now is honestly YouTube. I've
Yeah.
gone to YouTube for a lot of things. One now there's a I know a few people might know it. It's Udemy.
Yes.
And so this is one tool that I've taken some courses in. Actually, right
Mhm.
now I think I buy too many things and I'm not really going through any of it just for them because I can. But I think they do have sometimes some topics. So what I think I wanted to pass through with respect to that is that there's a quite some field you cannot be successful, and math might be one of them, by just doing your homework.
Right.
You cannot by just doing, you have to do the extra. You will have to do
Mhm.
the extra to really get the mastery that you're looking for. And unfortunately, if you're struggling, and let's just say you're about to graduate high school this year and you're struggling, that means you're already behind. Even
Right.
if you're doing average, you might be already behind for what's ahead. And so you're going to have to put in a lot of extra work. You might have to, but I do suggest going to YouTube and researching particular topics you have issues with.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be helpful, because in
Right.
some instances, I found them to be helpful right now for certain things that I'm trying to look for. It's not math, but other things.
Right. And I mean, the Atkins bar, you hit it right on the head. I feel like that's one thing that, having been like a allied health instructor, that is one of the biggest things that I found, that sometimes students will have an academic struggle and then think that the career is not for them, just
Right.
because they were struggling in a particular subject matter. And really all it took was just the right academic support.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sometimes with a lot of Black American women in particular, we don't want to look as if we don't have it together. We don't want to be vulnerable in that way.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to say like, hey, this is something I don't understand, because for fear of looking dumb or for fear
Mm-hmm.
of failure. And what that is that's not a failure. That's actually a way for you to get some academic support. And believe it or not, a lot of professors want to help you. They want to help you.
Absolutely. They are the first. Like in my first couple of years, I barely bought any books. I got a lot of books from professors,
Right.
by just talking to them, saying, by the way, next semester I'm going to XYZ, 3,000. You say, oh yeah, I got the book.
Right.
To me. So get to know your professors. They really want you to pass. Some of them, may be questionable. There's always been
Right.
questionable professors. And the TAs are there for you too. There's math lab, because that's where I used to work. I used to work in college in the math lab, and providing tutoring. In some universities, it's a big operation, and they are there for you. The people get graded on that, on how many people they help. And sometimes you can, if you need extra help, these same tutors sometimes are looking for extra money and willing to tutor you extra, outside of some of these hours if it doesn't work for you. So there are options. There's a lot of options: tutoring, YouTube. And okay, another thing I wanted to, a lot of people sometimes neglect their textbook.
Yes.
I would recommend to really go through your textbook, because sometimes some professors, they're trying to get certain shortcuts. Maybe they don't like a textbook. They don't like the way it processes. So they really neglect the textbook. So a lot of the students are not going to the textbook. I really suggest reading your textbook, literally, because like I said, math is a language. Read it. If you have to read your textbook.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, and I get exactly what you mean with a lot of, because I know definitely adjuncts are very notorious for that.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, the textbook says this, but in real life we do this. And then all of a sudden you're missing some of those fundamentals for a licensing exam that you may need.
Or when you get into the job market, then they're like, okay, work on this. And then you're like, oh, wait, that's a chapter they never really did.
Right, exactly.
So,
and yeah. So, another problem that I think we kind of experienced was, it's one that's coming up, work-life balance. Were you a traditional student and just went like all 5 years as a traditional student? Were you an adult and then came into it? Like, how exactly did you end up in your career?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I was a traditional student.
Mm-hmm.
I started college. I didn't live exactly on campus, but I live in like a student village type of, live in a house of other students. And I guess the balance was, I did tutor, so I spent my time doing that. Half my time was doing that, and then studying. I honestly was a little bit of a loner, to be honest with you. So I did spend a lot of time by myself just because I liked it. And I think I'd like to think, I like my college years. I didn't necessarily party that much, but
Right.
I always thought like there was a day where I was out at a party and it was 2 a.m. and I was like, oh, no one someone's waiting for me, isn't it? So that was a realization that, oh, I'm not home anymore,
Right.
I can do whatever I want. But once
Right.
that passes, after a couple of semesters, maybe the first year, then after that, you have so much work to do. When you in these fields, you do have a lot of work to do, because honestly, you shouldn't just do your homework. You should do the extra if you really want to, reach a certain level. So you don't have that much time, but you make time, because
Right.
the other thing I wanted to say, if you want to balance your schoolwork with something else, it's spend your time networking. That's one of the most important things. So spend your time networking with other students, spend your time networking with some of the to being a student member of some of these associations that for your field, whatever field that you choose, there's always an association. There's always a group. Get into this group, get involved, go to the different events that they're having. This is one of the best way for you to get connected, understand what the work is about, get some internships. And so this, if you're balancing your time with something, that would be the one.
Yeah, girl, pass the collection plate, because you are preaching a sermon right now.
Yes,
that is exactly, because this is what I find. I find like a lot of people, they know that they need to go to college. And what happened is they're working full time and they're going to school full time. And what's really missing is, number one, the mastery of the material, because they don't really have the time to devote to studying. And then number two, building that network of people who, it's like Tony Princess. I'm fangirling out right now. I love your content. Like, the reason why I'm doing this is because of you. You were blazing the path with educational and career development content. And the whole reason I started a channel is because of Locked Honey Princess. So I'm so grateful that you came to this live. Thank you. Thank you so much. But work-life balance. That work-life balance is something that we really need to talk about. So if you have to work full time, please go to school part time. And if you have to go to school full time, please, look into that.
Yeah, look into that. And then as an adult, like the work-life balance, it's real. It's a pursuit. You try to pursue that, but I think there's an article I think I read in the Harvard Business Review, and I think it did say, honestly, you never really have balance, but at certain moment you prioritize different things. So when I'm at work, I do try to prioritize work and do the work at work. And when I'm home, well, unfortunately, once you reach a certain level, you cannot avoid bringing work home sometimes.
That's true. That is very true.
Yeah, you cannot avoid it. But you can create a space where when you at home, or you make your home your sanctuary. So I do try to make, like a certain space a sanctuary for me. My bedroom is that, so it's a sanctuary. It's always nice, find a place that you create that's always nice and that you can kind of go there and relax and decompress. And if you have kids and you can prioritize time with them. So you can have different priorities at different time. And maybe that's how you achieve the balance. I don't know if everything will just be balanced all the time. Right. But at certain time you deprioritize work and you prioritize family or yourself. One thing that like I said, for STEM, I think that balances you personally, especially as a woman, is doing something that keeps you close to your feminine side and your nurturing side outside of work. Because believe it or not, it's still a man's world in these fields. It's still very, you will have to exert some masculinity to push through, to push through and to rise, within the ranks. But it will help you, and it will even help work if you cultivate something at home that kind of brings you back to your feminine side. So I think that's another way to strike balance within your own self.
Right. Thank you so much for the super chat, the Atkins Bar. I know that you're really into computer science, and I'm so grateful for all the support you've given this platform. If you want to click the link and come up and talk a little bit about what you do, what you're studying, and what advice you would have for people who are interested in the computer side of STEM, I would appreciate that. And Locked Honey Princess, thank you so much for all you've done with STEM content and the medical field content you start putting out there.
Go ahead.
And it's just because a lot of times we do need like good academic support, and to not be afraid to get it, and really to also be honest about where our skill level is.
That's a very good, that's super good. Yes. Yeah. To be, because I did meet, there's quite a few of my peers, they struggle, there's a lot of kids that struggle, but they push through. But I think a lot of people did not really realize what it takes. So that's why I do invite, a lot of young girls, research some of these fields you want to go into, research what it takes, research what your day-to-day activity is going to be like. You might hate it, and also start with the end in mind. Right. Like Stephen Covey might say, like, also find out what the type of lifestyle you want to have. And then you can work backwards from that. That will suggest what kind of career you should pick, even within STEM, because STEM is pretty vast. And I think a lot of people, I really appreciate you, Mocha Mommy, bringing me on, because a lot of people, when they hear STEM, they immediately think tech. But there's so much more out there.
Exactly.
And what I was in a conference recently where one of the speakers was saying, you cannot become what you can't see. So I think a lot of the youth, sometimes they don't know other things that are going on. They don't know other types of, they don't know what different types of success looks like. A lot of people think you need to be a millionaire, then to be a millionaire, you have to be an athlete, or an artist. Right. And they don't think that there are other ways you can be rich. Sometimes being rich is having options.
Right.
And being able to do a lot of different types of things. I tell myself, like, well, if something bad happens, I know I can always teach. Because I do have the background.
Exactly.
Or sometimes I cultivate other things to learn how to do with my hands. I've always been really obsessed with the post-apocalyptic shows. And then I always think about, like, oh my God, if something like that happened, what would I do? But think about that, learn to do something with your hands. But computer science is really good, because my husband is actually a developer. So he did computer science, and he did electrical engineering, and computer science can be super close. And if you get both, I would suggest getting both. So that if I can win a little bit on that, because I know that really served them a lot. So if it's super close, if you can buckle down and get both if you're doing computer science.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Locked Honey Princess, thank you for coming on.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. Hi, girls. How is everyone doing?
Good.
Great.
Good. So tell us a little bit about your educational background and your career.
You guys got to excuse me. It's kind of been a minute, so I don't know why, but I feel shy talking in front of everyone. I don't know why, but just a little bit about me. I recently turned 30 years old, June 3rd. I have been working in healthcare for almost 7 years now. You guys know, well, a lot of you ladies know that I'm actually a surgical technician. I've also been a lead surgical technician at different facilities. I have had the opportunity to work with really great physicians, surgeons, things of that sort. I have been able to, excuse me, I have actually been able to, hey, honey, I have actually been able to be in cases such as cardiology, Da Vinci robotics, and just really a lot of different specialties that I've had the opportunity of learning, and I became more comfortable over the years with my skills and progressing and everything like that. And I'm also using this experience for medical school because my ultimate goal is
Wow.
to become a physician. So ladies, that's why I haven't been on YouTube. I took a break from YouTube. I've really been putting in the work. I'm studying my MCAT. I'm also in school full time while I work full time. So
Wow.
I really have a big load, and then I'm also running my business online, and then I'm starting another skincare. But I have a lot going on.
Right,
I'm so
exactly.
sorry for rambling, but I have a lot going on. But that's pretty much where I am in my life. But as far as my career, this is what I want to tell you guys. STEM. I mean, just like this young lady said, I mean, people think of STEM and they only think of computer sciences or
Mhm.
engineering and things of that sort. But healthcare, oh my gosh, that is my specialty. And there is so much you can do in healthcare. People think you only have to do bedside or you have to be hands on. I mean, you could be in administrative. And I'm so happy that you and all of these ladies are really starting to have these discussions because I feel that this is so important as far as leveling up in every aspect. I mean,
Right.
education is so important. And, you know, I kind of felt alone out there on YouTube for such a long time because I just felt like there was something missing from this movement. I felt like we were all missing something. And it's like, okay, we can talk about all these things, but what about education? Like,
Mhm.
as Black women, you ladies know that if it's not for us, we are the ones who carry the degrees. We are the ones who carry all of this weight on our back as far as representing the whole community when it comes to education. And especially if you're looking to date out and, I hate to say get out of black sand, you're gonna need some education, ladies. And I'm so glad that women like Mocha Mommy, she's using her platform to really tell you guys the game. And
Right.
this is part of it. Like, if you want to get out of Blackistan, honey, you need to be smart, you need to be witty, and you need to be in a career that's going to take you places,
Right.
uh put you in different positions in life. I mean, this is what's needed. And I'm so happy that more women are talking about this aspect of it. But I'm sorry for rambling on.
No, I think that was great. But the reason why I was so glad that Intrigued Owl had reached
Yeah.
out to me is for, with both of us being in healthcare and her being in
Mhm.
engineering, was that when
Mhm.
I was an instructor, I had noticed how many times you would prepare students for a healthcare,
Mm.
you'd give them the fundamentals, but then you would see the energy, because in Texas, the energy, oil, and gas industry would almost poach my students.
Oh,
Mhm.
Yeah,
wow.
simply because they had the fundamentals that they needed to go into the energy industry. So, there are a lot of the foundational skills may be the same. And, I would have a lot of students who thought they wanted to be doctors and thought they wanted to be
Mm.
nurses, but then found out, once the world kind of opened up, they found out like, oh my gosh, look at how great biomedical engineering is. Look how,
Mm.
Yes,
I mean? Like,
I'm glad you bring that up
mhm,
because there's a lot of niche. I even wish I did that because there's a lot
mhm,
of niche within engineering that pay a lot of money and that are very well, um, I guess that they are very sought after. And
exactly.
that is like, for example, who do you think make airplane parts?
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
these people, there's not that many of them. Some of them are mechanical engineering engineers. I know a couple. Nuclear engineers. There's a lot of them that work for the Defense Department, and they're
Right.
not necessarily working in Washington.
Mhm.
They can be anywhere. So, do you think about like the different things you see around you? It's like, who makes that? How is
Right.
this done? Because there is a big
Exactly.
world out there of things to do or career path that are not very uncovered. And you know what, and talking, I mean, I know this is a space for Black women, and there's not a lot of Black people in these spaces, even
No.
if the path is not that hard, but it's because is generational, because most people don't know about it. So usually, you know, the son is looking at his dad working for years in this, you know, you name it, plant or this place that is very specialized, and they just go right into it.
Right.
But we don't necessarily have that to pass down, you know, these knowledge. So we need to start looking into certain places that we're not actually there, so we can teach our kids that there are other things you can also do that are very lucrative.
Right. Exactly. I mean, because I had no idea, you know, when you know, I would get a student, you'd get them down for the fundamentals for math, you'd get them down for the fundamentals of chemistry, and that you're teaching them the whole, you know, deciliter per liter, or, you know, moles and things like that, so they can be able to walk into like the pharmacology part of it, not realizing that those same skills were needed to be a petroleum engineer. Those same skills were needed in biomed. Those same skills were needed by Texas Instruments.
Yes.
A lot of the CPUs for the Da Vinci robots you're talking about.
Yes.
Princess. So, you know, like, you know, even if you just, you know, like you said, how you started maybe doing chemistry and then you took a pivot into civil engineering, that's why it's so important to really network with your classmates, and also to utilize career services to get those internships early.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
I had a lot of really great students who wanted to do healthcare and nursing and bedside, got an internship, found that it wasn't for them, but that didn't mean that you couldn't still get involved in the field. You know, one of the young ladies I mentor ended up going into clinical lab technician and ended up doing a great job. And she's not at the bedside.
No, you find out different things. That's why networking. Like I have a classmate that you know, we actually took the test together to register and everything, and she realized it wasn't exactly for her. But what she did after her school, she went to law school, and then she became a lawyer, and she worked for a company an engineering company, because engineering companies need lawyers. So, and she was the lawyer. So she had the background to understand all the different type of contracts that they're trying to go after. And it was just like the perfect mix. So not all the time, you know, if you need to pivot, it's a bad thing, because everything you do in life, it's valuable. Like that's what I used to, because some people would ask me like, how are you successful in whatever, you know, taking tests. There's a lot of test taking, by the way, in that field. So you guys know, lots of test taking. But what I used to say is that, you know what, whenever I'm taking a test, I try to make my mind become a library. Everything I've ever known, not just math, not just what the topic is, up for grab. I use everything I know to apply understanding and answer question. So all your whole background is valuable whenever you go. So it's never lost time, whatever you. So don't be afraid. I think I'm using all this to say not to be afraid. What's worse that can happen? It's like, you know, some more things. Like I graduated with a few more chemistry classes than others. So but it still helped, because actually in some of the tests that you have to take to register, there's a chemistry side to it. And guess what? I breezed through it. I didn't have to study for it, you know, like while others had to, you know, so it will serve you at some point. And sometimes some people, when they see that I used to tutor, it also meant that I had some public speaking skills, which is actually super valuable. Okay, another tip I wanted to say, I know when people see STEM or when they see an engineer, they think it's all about math. No, wrong. I spend a lot of my time writing and reading. So I want to tell people, it's really not the math. Honestly, the math could be the easy part. When you get in the workforce, depending on the subfield you end up with, you will have to do a lot of technical writing. And so, you know, don't be fooled that, you know, I'm only doing the numbers, you know, I don't care about, you know, polishing my writing skills or my reading skills. It's a little bit of a myth. So you really want to polish that. And that's especially if you want to advance once you get into these skills, because everyone is gonna come in with the math, and then right now, honestly, all calculations, they're software packages. Thanks to our computer science people, there's software packages to do all that stuff. Now the next step is to really put it all together, and that's where your problem solving skills comes in, and that's what you really want to foster. And to be able to get jobs, to really be able to make your way through, you really want to polish your speaking, your speaking skills and your public speaking skills and your writing skills. So that's gonna take you a little bit further than the others.
That's so true. That's so true. Like your communication,
your communication, all of it is communication skills, exactly. Because there's a lot, like for instance, I work in government a number of years, and with that comes also public speaking skills, especially when you have to face the public. There's something like a public meeting that you have to have for a certain project, and you facing the public and you have to present the project. It's a thing, and it's part of your job, and you have to get through it. And sometimes, depending on how compelling you can be, that might mean the death of a project or not, because the public didn't want it. But if you can be compelling, and so that's on one side of being in government. But as if you work for the private industry, the jobs don't just get on their laps. For an engineering firm, they have to go seek it. They have marketing, and they don't necessarily hire marketing people to market. It's the engineers that are marketing. A lot of us hate it, but we have to do it. And some of us are better at it than others, meaning where you go see clients, you pull them in with how great your firm is. What can the firm bring that's different than others, and all that kind of stuff. They have to write technical proposal to answer for projects. So that's a lot of writing. You have to present, you have to answer a question, you have to go through all interviews, to get certain jobs. So there is a lot of that. And if you are able to get through this and be able to do this well, this is when you become top notch at the firm, and this is when you advance and you get paid the big bucks.
Exactly. And communication is really important once you start assuming leadership roles. And Loctani Princess, can you talk to us a little bit about what it was like when you were in a leadership role and how communication played a part in that?
Yes, I definitely can touch on that. First of all, I want to say that I agree with literally everything that you ladies were talking about. Communication is extremely important. I know a lot of times that you have young people who are intimidated of getting into these fields, but confidence, public speaking, and writing is very important. Because it shows that you can have really great leadership skills. Like, for example, when I was a lead tech at certain facilities, the way that I spoke with confidence, the way that I displayed myself with my work, that's what was able to push me to the forefront and get the attention of management to say, hey, let's give this young Black woman an opportunity to be able to be a lead technician. So yes, please, be more polished with your communication skills. Like me, for example, trust me, I am still a work in progress when it comes to communicating, because I'm still learning as I get into my career deeper. It's always going to be a learning process. So, I don't want young women to feel like just because they don't know how to communicate well, it's okay. You're going to learn more and more that you get into your career, because I had to do it as well. I had to learn how to communicate with my staff. I had to learn different techniques of communication when it came to training new people. That's another thing that you have to be aware of when you're put into a leadership position. How do you come across to people that you're training? Learning how to speak to people in such a way that they're comfortable with you. That's another thing. I can personally recall when I had a leadership program, sorry, not a program, you got to excuse me, I'm kind of tired. When I had a leadership position in Toledo, Ohio, I probably shouldn't say this, but I feel a little comfortable. I was actually working at ProMedica Hospital in Toledo, Ohio, and I had a lead position there. And what I found was a lot of the younger women that I worked with on that shift, they were really comfortable with me. A lot of them were very comfortable coming to me, asking me questions about how to do certain tasks. And it's because of my delivery. And it's because I was able to understand how to establish a great communication boundary with people that initially I was in charge of. So honestly, I think it's really about being confident in your skill as well. And when you're confident in your skill and in your education, especially when you've been in the field for for quite a long time, it makes it a little bit easier for communication and speaking with people. So that's just my little 2 cents.
I so concur with what you said about the confidence. I think the
Yes.
more you know your stuff, the more
Mhm.
confidence you will have. So to whatever it is that you into and that you have to speak about, dig deeper into it, get your, I'm gonna say the S word, get your S together, and
Yes.
it will help you be confident. But I also wanted to
Mhm.
recommend Toastmasters. Yeah, I don't know if any of you know about it. You can just Google that. It's an
Mhm.
organization. It helps a lot with public speaking skills. There's a lot of clubs all around the US, in different states. It's a huge organization. It will certainly help you with public speaking. I don't know if I've done it, but I'm not sure if all of them are structured differently. But the way it was structured where I was is that every week or on a regular basis, you make a speech and it has to be about something, and then they critique you, but it's still fun, and then you progress and you get a little pin. But honestly, I have to say it makes a huge difference. It will help you tremendously. So go ahead, Google it, Toastmasters.
And I
I
know I can honestly say
definitely.
that the military gave me a lot of benefits when it came to like leadership and communication, because it's kind of
Mm,
built into the, I guess, like into your OCS. It's kind of built into a lot of the things that you get evaluated on, like your OERs and like how well you communicate and how well you write. But at the same time, too, um, moving to the civilian workforce, right? Because even when you're military, right, you move you kind of stick around like military contractors and you stick around VA hospitals, and but then when you hit that wall and you need to move to your career and head into the civilian world, you got to really learn those communication skills and the nuances of it, because in the military promotions are very definitive, and that is not the case in the civilian world. Like pay and promotions are a lot less definitive. So that's why it's so important to really learn how to communicate and to really learn how to negotiate, and also to learn how to precept, understanding that maybe there's not a rank structure, but like a communication. And I think that's definitely an area where I stumbled. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Then
And
no, negotiate the go ahead. I was gonna say a
yeah,
negotiation is a big one.
yeah.
Yes.
And I
Learning how to
definitely
negotiate.
did like stumble in that area, with just kind of being a little bit too autocratic in the way I communicated to, students and to other staff members, because that was the environment that I had done most of my life. So I really, really, really had to um, make sure that I kind of refine my communication a lot. And I think that sometimes people think people who are good at math and science are automatically a little bit more socially awkward. And sometimes there might be some truth to that. So that's why I really want to suggest, I know Conscious Queen is here, with her having that theater background, you could be at an extreme advantage,
Mhm.
going into the tech field because you are a good communicator. Like I'm just kind of noticing, like even with my spouse's profession, there's, you know, definitely the guys who are on the technical side, but the guys who are on the management and sales side, they're doing very well as well too. So
yeah. You should see how I'm shaking my head, like saying, like, yes, if you have a theater background, yes, it will tremendously help you, because the people that advance are the people that have the gift of gab. Yeah. Honestly. So yeah, and I want to make a little side note. I think also a lot of people have a preconceived notion that, you know, the people that are in these fields, they are like, yeah, they are awkward, they are the nerds. There's a lot of us, but a lot of these people are actually very creative as well. And that's like a best kept secret, you know? So if you're creative, you might be thinking, no, I'm really not that, you know, that field is not for me. I don't think I can do it. You might find out that this is a secret skill that you have, because a lot of people I know within my field are super creative, are big artists, you know, and you name it, you know, within music. Actually, music has like a big intertwined relationship with computer scientists. A lot of computer science majors I knew, my husband included, are into music. They play an instrument or something like that. They have a very good ear. And sometimes within my field, a lot of the people I know draw really well, or like they're artists. So don't let that, if you very creative, but you think you might want to do STEM and you're thinking, oh, I always hear, you know, that's not for me. You know, I'm more, what is it? Right brain. All that stuff can be a myth. You know, you just go right on and try something, do something. You might surprise yourself.
Right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think that for engineering, drafting, especially civil engineers, like they do have to have some sort of artistic ability. Mechanical engineers have to have some kind of artistic ability.
Yes.
So for those of you who are creatives, you might have a lot in common with people in the engineering field, and also people in the medical field. Sometimes, you know, some of the things that draw them there is their compassion and their love for people. So again, we really can't put people in a box, and just that's why it's so important for us to network and make friends when we're on that educational journey. And that's one of the reasons why I really stress work-life balance in school, because the education part is important, but so is our network. You know, so making sure that you have that time. I mean, I would see so many students just miss out on opportunities because they were so busy and too busy working to really get like the tour of the new cath lab that hospital was building. Like, oh, I got to leave right after clinicals because I got to go to work. And they didn't get a chance to take that tour of the cath lab, or get a chance to have coffee with that charge nurse, or get a chance to go and talk to that physical therapist and see his new equipment lab. I mean, and because they were missing out on those opportunities because they were burning the candle at birth.
Yeah, no, don't miss out. Don't miss out. Like if there's something I wish I did more of, is that I wish I did a little bit, but honestly, I wish I did more during my career, trying to balance, you know, having a family, you know, work. Sometimes you do neglect the networking. And if you can afford not to neglect it, don't, because this is how you're going to get to the next level. There's a certain level you will get to. So, and I think that's what people don't talk about, you know, when they talk about some of the discrimination that may exist. Honestly, at the beginning, you know, entry level, everyone has a chance, you know, everyone has a chance, and it's very equal. It's when you get to the mid level and you're trying to get to the senior level, this is where it rears its ugly head. And how you're going to overcome it is by having a network, by having, you know, a group of people. When you get to a certain point in these fields, and I think in a lot of different places, you're not applying online, you're not sending a resume. You just having coffee with someone and say, you know, I need a change. It's like, oh, I need a new blah, blah, blah. And then that's how you get, you know, you get a new job. Honestly, that's how it works. So you really want to beef up your network since the beginning. Like right now, I'm working for someone that I've known 10 years ago that didn't have their company, just said they were just starting out. And that's when, you know, I got to know them, you know, they became my friend. And then now 10 years later, I'm working with them.
Right.
So you don't neglect that. Mocha Mommy is very, very well place to say that, yes, network while you're in school, continue network while you're working. This is how you're going to advance, or your family members will advance, because you never know.
Right. Exactly. And I definitely can testify to that. There was some study had done that says 50% of all job openings are never posted or listed.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So tell us a little bit about Lux Honey Princess. Tell us a little bit about networking and how you've used those relationships to help advance your career.
So let's really dive into this, because it's a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. I can tell you right now, being in healthcare, you want to go into nursing, being a surgical technician, maybe you want to be a medical scribe because you want to go to medical school. Let me explain something. A lot of these positions are never going to be posted on Indeed. They are never, I'm telling you the truth. A lot of these positions are not going to be posted online, because you want to know what they do. The hospital would prefer to hire somebody who's already in the hospital system. So, for example, right, if I'm starting off in sterile processing for the OR, okay, if I'm a sterile processing tech and I'm going back to school full time to be a surgical technician, right? So, if they happen to be hiring for that surge tech position, soon as I get out of school, since I'm already in the hospital system, 9 times out of 10, they're just going to go ahead and go in the computer system and change my title, give me a new badge, and just move my behind upstairs. That's how the game works. So it's also about networking. Because I'm going to tell you what I did. Sterile processing was my foot in the door, right? So I completed that program for a year. The community college that I was going to at the time, the sterile processing was the surge tech was a extension of the sterile processing program. So it's kind of like a 2-in-1, right? So after you got done with that segment, you moved on to that if you chose to, right? So once I completed that, I stayed in touch with my professors. My professor was a Black woman. I communicate with her to this very day, and it's been well over 7 years. She's the one who gave me my first job. I was hired by my professor. She was my teacher. And then when I graduated and passed my test, my state test and everything like that, she was the one who hired me in and pulled me in. And then once I finished with my surgical technician program, guess what? It was her that did that pull and just went right upstairs and said, hey, she was a student of mine. Let's just go ahead and change her in the system, I'm telling you, a lot of times it is about networking. It's about who you know, especially if you're just coming straight out of school. I told another young lady this, stay in that professor's face, because I'm telling y'all, a lot of these people that teach these medical programs in community colleges and university, they're doing it part-time, because 9 times out of 10, they're working full-time at the hospital. So you need to stay in these people's face. They're only teaching part-time because they're probably the managers, they're probably the lead techs at the hospital outside of teaching. So you need to stay in their face so that when you pass these state tests and you let them know, they can just go ahead and pull your resume and get you in. Because that's how I got in. That's exactly how I got in. And when I got done, I sent my resume to my teacher. I didn't go through Indeed and all of that. No, when I got done, and even before that, she had a copy of my resume and kept it on hand and told me, once you complete everything and pass that test, we can go ahead, push it through the system and get you a job, get you an interview. And guess what? On my interview, she was there on my interview too.
Right.
That's how I got in.
Yeah, I can definitely testify to that, because I know when I was an instructor, I still had my foot in the door with a contracting agency that was, contracting out to the VA, certain troop medical clinics for their civilian workforce, right? So occasionally, if I would see like a reservist who was getting out, or a student who was working full time at a burger shop and flipping burgers and then coming to school at night, I would say, hey, we need a couple of unit clerks, or we need a couple of, and then as they go through their degree program, they're already in the system. And then not to mention, I look good to the contract agency because I'm referring them, and then sometimes there are referral bonuses. So this is one of the reasons why when you guys keep saying, I'm focusing on my school, I'm not talking to anybody, I'm not networking, I'm focusing on my school. This is when you're making your mistake, because a lot of times in healthcare, we as full-time healthcare workers get referral bonuses. So if I'm a year ahead of you and I get hired into physical therapy.
I just made $500. I just made $500 last week because I hooked up one of my homegirls to the company that I'm with and got her signed on. I made $500 off of her.
Oh, I have made thousands in
just last week.
Yes. Yeah.
Mocha Mommy, let me add that when you said like you're making a mistake, you should just focus on the books. I think that also applies to dating as well, because that's something that I've seen. A lot of us, we get in like, okay, just focus, and then at the end of it all, if I want a family, it'll happen. I want to say that it may not, and you really can balance, dating while you're there and finding like-minded people. That's how I got married. And all the successful marriages I know within my field, they started in college, and then they're still together, holding on 15, 20 years, you name it. So I would invite, if you want a family, because maybe not everyone does, you want a family and you want to be married, I do suggest while you're in college to just don't close your eyes to that, or your ears, or focus solely on your books. Keep your options open, be open to dating and relationship with like-minded people that you find around, and you can certainly make the road together. You can travel together.
Right. And then still, because, I would always say this too to students, like, keep in touch, like exchange socials and keep in touch. Because of course, like I would have these young men who would come in and they think that they want to, their mothers want them to be doctors, and they come in and they start studying the allied health, and then they get poached by the oil and gas industry. Well, there's not a lot of like single women in like Brenham, Texas, or San Angelo, Texas. So if you're keeping in contact with them, next thing you know, you got a petroleum engineer on the line. You know what I mean? Because you've kept in contact through social media, and you'd be like, hey, happy birthday, or what are you doing for the holidays? And, so that's what I'm trying to say. Like, use this to network. Or how many times, I would see, my young Black women who are going off to their job and doing this, and I'm in school full time and I'm working full time. But then I would see my other students, they sitting here having coffee in the student union with the physical therapy majors.
Yes.
And they're sitting over here hanging out with the pre-dentist students, pre-dentistry students, studying biology because they need the same classes. And that's how they ended up getting job referrals and husbands.
Yep.
Okay.
Why you over here trying to be Superwoman?
And what? I hate to interrupt, but I'm sorry. I have to say this. I have to get this out because I want to piggyback off of what both of you ladies said. And I'm going to just go ahead and say it and sound like a broken record for the 1,000th time that I have tried to preach this on my channel. Y'all gonna learn. I have said over and over, and I did multiple videos talking about how a lot of you ladies, y'all need to stop focusing on that pipe ass dream of getting this rich man when these men in the making are right in your damn classroom, in your damn programs and everything. I kept saying, you go into these careers where these successful men are at biomedical engineering, just engineering, period. Any STEM field. What do you think these guys are doing? Where do you think they're at? They're in the biology labs. Okay. They're in the chemistry labs studying. Okay. I have said this to so many women on YouTube so many times, but Girl, a broken record. A broken record. A
Yep,
broken
yep, yep,
record.
yep.
See, y'all need to understand. You need to set yourselves up and put yourselves in a position, because these same guys that y'all want to watch these videos on talk about, you want you a rich man and da 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 da, baby, they're in the medical programs, boo.
Right.
Baby, they're in the chemistry labs, boo.
Right.
Get there. Go
And
there,
then,
boo.
yes. And then stop. If
I
you're in your
said
20s,
this.
yes. And if you're in your 20s, a lot of guys in their 20s who are on this path, you guys are putting dollar amounts on it. Like, okay, he might not be making this money in his 20s, but look at the trajectory that he's on.
Thank you.
Or,
Thank
or
you.
they'll be like, well, I'm an intern and I'm going to go, snuggle up on these lawyers, or I'm going to snuggle up on these doctors. A lot of these guys are not going to risk their career for your behind.
Hell no.
They're not. They're not going to risk all that they have worked for to run around with you.
Yeah, or they'll lie. They'll just lie. They'll just be like, no, I don't know this.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And like Mocha Mommy said, these men are not about to put their self on a line for you, because let's keep it real. I'm not trying to sound like kitten heels over here, but I got to keep it real with y'all at the same time. Who you think these men probably gonna want to be bothered with? The girl that's sitting up in the chemistry lab, or the girl that's sitting up in the community college subway talking about, oh, I need me a rich dude? Come on now. Who he about to be bothered with?
Yeah,
Right.
no, definitely. Like a lot of the people I know, and the thing is, in my field, most of the men I know, they are married already.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, like, I'm in my late 30s, and let's just say some of them mid 30s to early 40s, or even early 30s. They're either married, about to be married, because a lot of these guys are very marriage minded. They're very commitment minded, because they also know it's weird to move up without being married. It's kind of weird. They're not really moving you up if you're not married, I think, which is really a sign of stability, that you have a stable mind and that you're responsible. So they're looking for that when they're promoting you. So a lot of the people that know what they want, they're marriage minded. They're trying to, they're trying to build a legacy. I think that's really what it is. They're trying to build a legacy, and you need a partner for that. So don't close your eyes to dating while you're in school. Open your eyes to that. I did it, and it works out. And even if you did it and you're young, because a lot of people say, oh, don't marry young, you need to get to know yourself. Let's just say you spend 20 years married and then you have to call it quits. I call it still a success.
Exactly.
So do it if you can.
Right. Like, I know, like, for us, we did meet in the military, but he definitely did put a lot into his career. So he wasn't going to risk it fraternizing with someone who wasn't of his rank.
Yes.
Right? So even though he outranked me, it wasn't by much. He wasn't going to risk that. And in the military, he didn't have, like, you only earn so much, But once he got into the civilian world, that salary almost doubled. So, you know what I mean? So thank goodness,
And I saw someone say, a lot of people meet at work. Well, I did meet my husband at work in the math lab. We were both college students tutoring. That's where we met. So it was still the same network.
Even I think if you're going back, because I did do a lot of adult education, and the average community college student here in the state of Texas was 27 years old. So it was people who had worked retail their whole life, or who had worked fast food, and then realized, like, I got to do something different. So I did have a lot of adult students. Loctite Princess is an adult student. She'd be what you would say a non-traditional student. And you know what I found?
And I'm 30, and let's put my age out there. I am 30 years old. I just turned 30 June 3rd. So I really think it's important to put my age out there too, because like Mocha Mommy said, I'm untraditional. Yeah, I've been in healthcare for 7 years. I've been a surgical technician for 7 years. And guess what? My 30-year-old behind is right back in school to become a doctor.
Right.
Okay.
or how many times you would see an ADN going for RN, or an RN going for her nurse practitioner, or a respiratory therapist going into physician assistant, or you know what I mean? You see this all the time. Adults going back to school because they're tired of the entry level positions, or they've hit that professional wall. That's one of the reasons why I went back. Also, too, the Army kind of made me, but for some of my certifications, they kind of made me do it. Like, we need a clinical data manager, you know, so that's, and you know, and it's like, and then that's when you found out, like, a lot of your fellow classmates are that age too. They're in their 20s and 30s. So don't think that it's all a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds.
Thank you.
You know, I know, like, when I was teaching in the evenings, you know what I was seeing? Saw a lot of guys who were in tech, because of where I was teaching was not very far from Dell's campus. Okay, so these guys and also in San Antonio as well, you would see these guys going to school at night because they're ready for that project manager position in their IT firm, or they're ready for that management position in their sales company, or they're ready for that next level. They're ready for that district manager position in whatever business industry that they're in. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, they're adult men in school.
Yeah, like
somebody on that same path.
Yeah, there's a lot of MBA programs actually that runs classes like on Saturdays, you know, like a 1-year MBA, and then you go on Saturdays. You might meet these people that are trying to get MBAs in some of these sturdy areas. So keep your minds open. There are a lot of like-minded people might be there. Keep your options open.
Right. Yeah. And for those of you who've already graduated and maybe are not in the field you want to be in, definitely you can always still go back to your alma mater and check career services and find out what's going on. Because you know what? An employed alumni is a dating alumni. I mean, is a donating alumni. An employed alumni is a donating alumni. So if they know they can keep you getting jobs, they know that you're going to donate to the school. So really, seriously, make sure that you guys are getting in touch with your alma mater and saying, like, hey, I'm ready for a change, and you never really know what they can offer you as far as post-back work and grants to do that, or just even like, you know what, hey, you know, this company just came in looking for a this or a that. And maybe we can just let's polish up your resume and get you back out there. So please don't just because you've graduated doesn't mean that they're done with you, because an employed alumni are donating alumni, and they have every single incentive to help you get back into the workforce.
Yeah, no, I forget the Alumni Association. Yes, do get involved to pay it forward. I mean, and that's why I'm doing this with Mocha Mommy. I try to get the word out a little bit, and I think, and that's why we need to think. Some of us that have kids, if some of us on the line have kids, think about that. Start thinking for them, you know, because honestly, the path starts really early. You know, it starts really early in the kind of even kindergarten. You put them in,
right?
So start thinking about that. Start doing the work, you know, for the other generation. If you have kids, to kind of bring them on, because I think that's sometimes what's lacking maybe in the community, the knowledge of what's out there, you know, in terms of education, even very early. You know, what are the pathways for certain colleges or for certain schools? So start learning about them for your kids, and it's work actually, but it's valuable. It pays off.
Right. Yeah. I would definitely think twice about psychology, Olivia Young. I think there's too many of us in that field.
I agree.
And it does not pay. I
mean, you have to have a master's.
Yeah, I mean, even at the master's level. Yeah. And then still getting licensed. It's just a program that doesn't pay, and I'm sorry to say that. I just wish. I really like all the social sciences.
I agree.
I'm sorry. It just does not pay off.
Yeah,
you know,
it does not pay
off. Yeah, no, healthcare, STEM. I mean, I know right now there's a lot of certification in computer science that are valuable, especially the security ones.
Yes.
So, you know, do get them if you in the computer science field. And I think, course, there's another. So I've always been into those massive online open courses. There is this one called Coursera.
Yeah.
Hope I'm saying it right. And it used to be really free back in the day. Now you have to pay, but it's still kind of marginal. Look into that. There's a lot of certification you might be able to get through that.
Right.
Another lucrative certification is the PMP certification. That one is very generic. It's a project management.
Yes.
Yeah, certification. But you would have to have worked before to get it because you need project management hours. But if you're already within a field and you're working, and especially if you're in tech and you already have some hours, it could be a very lucrative certification for you to have.
Yeah, exactly.
It's expensive though.
Project management, anything with cybersecurity. Also, cloud networking and storage and data analytics. Like like
data science.
Like TC is talking about AWS and SQL, very big in demand as well, because everybody wants to know their flow, their information flow, because companies are living and dying by that. So yeah, let's just make it a point to make sure that we're always looking at those lucrative fields, and then also you just have so many opportunities. Unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity to work from home as much as so many other people, but people who are looking for that work-life balance, you may, because are you working from home in Tree Dowell? Have you been working from home much?
Yeah, I have. And I think that was the plus in being in these fields. You did get to transfer from home and it wasn't like that big of a deal. Yes, I've worked from home actually the whole year. Now I'm going back a couple days a week in the office and I'm a couple days a week at home. And it helped tremendously. So it was the kind of field where you could work from home. The work didn't stop, your paycheck didn't stop, and you could work from home. So I was very grateful, that I had that. So Mocha Mommy is right there. That's why I mentioned at the beginning to really think about the kind of lifestyle you do want to have. I know it could be hard to do when you're in college, but try. What is the lifestyle that I want to do? Like realistic lifestyle, obviously, but that I want to have, and then work backwards from that and see what would get you there. But yeah, I have worked from home and I'm still doing it part-time right now.
Right. Yeah. My spouse works from home and it's been fun having him work from home, and
we both work from home. Yes, it was different.
Yeah. Especially when the kids were in school and then he's working. And it got crowded sometimes.
Yes, it does. I guess we were fortunate. The house was spread out a bit, in a bit where we were not all over each other, but it was the being mom and then everyone looking at you at lunchtime. You're like, what did you guys used to do before? Why are you looking at me?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because it got, online school got intense for some parts. And, and as far as, La Princess question about being in the medical field and wanting to look into tech, you're going to have an incredible advantage when it comes to like health informatics and health information systems, because you already understand a lot of the codes and a lot of the medical terminology. So I have seen a lot of nurses walk into the tech field and into the consulting and the architecture part of the tech consulting. And that's another one. Oh my gosh, consulting, girl. Like that's, you don't have to keep any inventory. That's a business you can run and not keep inventory because you're just selling your knowledge and experience.
Right. That's why I transitioned to, like, I work for a consultant, what they call, I'm a consultant right now, but I work for a firm. And slowly, depending on how much experience you get with them, get to know some of the clients, this is when you can venture out by yourself. But it's not easy venturing out by yourself, but you can certainly become a consultant. And talking about tech is definitely, and programming is definitely valuable in a lot of different fields if you can have both of them, because a lot of different fields are trying to build different systems to make the work better, to get the work done faster. So if you're in school and you're trying to get a data science, certification, and but at the same time you want to be in the medical field, it's not something that's mutually exclusive, so you can do both and be successful.
Exactly. Like, I mean, companies like Fisher Paykel, companies like Draeger, companies like Marquette, they were paying us big money to consult, during this pandemic, like paying us big money. And a lot of companies like IBM, Watson, they want to know all about workflow. So yeah, there are so many technology opportunities. And Silent Storm, I do agree that healthcare will not be oversaturated because we did lose a lot of healthcare workers. Yes, we did get paid more than average. I mean, I can definitely say this is the most I've ever been paid was during the pandemic. I can honestly say that. But I also had a lot of coworkers who decided to not come back.
Oh, wow.
Especially because I mostly do emergency room and urgent care. And a lot of them just decided to not come back. I mean, some of them actually, in the month of August, when the pandemic first hit, the most healthcare infections, 1 in 3 new COVID infections were of healthcare workers. And then as a result of the respiratory distress and sometimes some of the long-term pulmonary damage, they could not come back to work because they could not be in a mask for 12 hours. They couldn't. And so some of them did lose their livelihoods as a result. Some young nurses, and I don't blame them for doing this. Some young nurses took those very lucrative contracts. You have to realize that at the height of this, they were paying experienced ICU nurses. All you had to have was 2 years experience. Experienced ICU nurses, $10,000 a week to go into these hospitals.
Oh, wow.
$10,000. So if you had student loans or
I would do it.
To buy your first, of course they would do it. And they would go into these hot zones in New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco and DC. And then they got burnt out. So they would take 3 months off because they could afford to now.
Yeah, you know what? That's something that I've learned too over time. That like nursing, for example, it's one of these fields where even if you retired, let's just say you're 62, you retired, but every once in a while, it seems like hospitals they just need someone, and then here you go, you do $3,000 just like that you didn't have before. So I've learned that it is one of the pluses of being in the medical field, especially being a nurse. After you retire, you can still make money, but not necessarily burn yourself out. And live an easy life. Another field that people don't talk about, they make a lot of money, and that's not very well known in the medical world, and it doesn't take that much to become a physician assistant. I have a friend that's a Mrs.
touched on it. That is that's actually the new class of medical millionaire right now. What happened is physician assistants, they are buying a lot of these urgent care, doc in the box franchises.
I have a friend.
So they will buy a franchise just the same way somebody would buy a McDonald's or a Chick-fil-A. They buy these franchises. They hire a physician to sign off on their records because depending on how states licensing, and now they have $1 million business. And again, something where you're selling your knowledge and experience, and you don't, and unlike a McDonald's, unlike a Chick-fil-A, you don't have to restock any inventory, really. So this is exactly
I've been telling others.
Millionaire right now.
Yep, I've been telling others because honestly, my friend, she's an example to me. I was like, oh my God, I want to use her everywhere I go because she used to be in banking. She worked for a bank, had a high level job. She was laid off, did have a package, and then she started thinking, you know what? I always wanted to be in healthcare. I really didn't want to do, this. I wasn't sure how she got into it, but I met her in college. And then she decided that she was going to get back to school. But after she did her research, she found out that was the fastest way that she could be, and the closest she could be a doctor, get paid almost like a doctor, but not have all the schooling or the student loans that you get. So I believe she went back to school, maybe took a few classes to get into the program. The program itself was about 3 years. And then she graduated. And I think she did I'm not sure, but I believe she did one more semester. Anyway, she got a doctorate. So she is a doctor, but not that kind of doctor. But she's a physician assistant. She sees patients. She can write prescription. And she makes good money. She makes really good money. But she's not as burnt out as a doctor would. And if you want to work by yourself, like Mama Mocha Mommy said, a lot of them are pulling together, and they putting together those urgent cares.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So look into that if you know if you want to be in healthcare, not quite a doctor, not quite a nurse, look into being a physician assistant.
Right. So for Angel K's question, nurse practitioner or PA, I would not. I don't think one is any better than the other. Simply because I was already on that path, which is why I did FMP. Right. But if you're a respiratory therapist or a surgical technician or any other allied health major like X-ray tech, PA is open to you. So simply because nurse practitioner is only for nurses, physician assistant is open to anyone. And I see a lot of people in allied health going into physician assistant, going into nuclear medicine, because again, they're not nurses, but they are allied health workers. I see a lot of X-ray techs going into nuclear medicine right now, and health physics. Their associates might be in one field, and then they get that bachelor's in something else. And so also, please don't discount things like speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy. Because I know a lot of times what was happening especially on the community college level, I'm not sure if you can testify to this, Locked Honey Princess, is that the nursing program would have so many applications.
Yes.
Right, for very few slots. And some of the allied health majors couldn't even get their slots filled because people had no idea what a respiratory therapist was, what a clinical lab technician was, or what a pharmacy technician or a surgical technician was. Not realizing that those were incredible paths to other healthcare careers. And right here, NP is not just for nurses. You do have to have a bachelor's degree in nursing to get into a lot of.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
So, and that could really set someone back who is already in allied health. So, like the Locked Honey Princess wanted to become a nurse practitioner, it could possibly set her back.
I would have to go the whole RN route if I wanted to do that.
Right. So, if she were to just go all the way through and get her bachelor's degree in chemistry, biology, any kind of medical science, then she can go into a physician assistant program, or like you said, or like she's going to go to do the medical school, or even dental school, or even pharmacy school.
Exactly.
So that's one of the reasons why I just don't ever suggest, if you're already in allied health or you get into an allied health program quicker than you get into nursing, look into those other graduate paths, because it's not going to be the end for you,
And I wanted to kind of piggyback off of you, Mocha Mommy, about everything that you just said. Those are all really great points. And that just really made me think about, you got to kind of make moves that make sense. And what I mean by that is, if you happen to get lucky and get into the nursing program, like she said, there's not a lot of slots. Yes, go the nurse practitioner route. But if you're somebody like me who's a surgical technician, also a lot of people don't know about this, a cardiovascular tech, which my friend, she's a cardiovascular tech. My bestie, she's a cardiovascular tech, and she make good ass money. Okay, so people like me and her, it wouldn't make sense for us to go to nurse practitioner route. That means we would have to go all the way back to school, do the bachelor's in nursing, and then have to wind up doing nurse practitioner. No, for people like us in allied health, where we're placed at, it would only make sense for us to do physician associate. By the way, the board has now ruled it's no longer physician assistant. You are now a physician associate. So congratulations to all the physician associates out there. That has been talked about a lot. But you have to kind of go in a direction that makes sense. So if you're in allied health, with what me and my friend do, it makes sense to become a physician associate or go to medical school. You see what I'm saying? You gotta move up how it makes sense.
Right.
So you won't set yourself back.
Right. And I've just seen a lot of surgical technicians go into the technology side, especially once the Da Vinci robot came out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, as far as maintaining the robot, and as far as like getting those biomedical engineering to design new parts for the robot. I mean, like robotic
Yeah.
surgeries. I mean, I've seen a lot of them just walk out. They've now left the clinical side and they're
Yeah.
in the technical side. And I'm like, and again, I mean, I remember I had one student who was so like, he was shivering and he was really afraid to tell me that he just didn't want to do medical anymore because of the oil and gas industry. And I was like, you know, I'm not mad at you at all. I'm actually proud of you for all that you've accomplished. And then number two, the grant just needs you to fill out this paperwork because you are technically moving into another STEM field. And that's all we needed for the purpose of the grant. So if you guys change your mind, I'm not in your pocket. Yeah. You know what I mean? So if you decide that, hey, nursing isn't for me, allied health isn't for me, medical is not for me, there are other things because you already have that foundation, you can make that pivot.
Yeah.
Or another observation I've always made is that, you know, let's just say you into the creative arts and, music videos, like, singing and stuff that you see. But when you see these shows, everyone backstage is white, so it's because the sound engineer, like these people, these are the fields that sometimes are working with the artists, the sound engineer, the light engineer. So you really want to look into these careers. We don't really think about them because we don't know they exist, but they do, and someone is doing that job. So look into that if maybe you don't want to be working in a boring, you don't want it to be boring, but maybe you want to be in STEM. There are other options, like.
Right, exactly. And as far as like, as I did on my Not So Starving Artist video, I did that, talked about like sound engineering, lighting, and a lot of the technical side to the arts industry. And also, I mean, to say like pharmacy's boring, right now there's a lot of pharmacists in research. There's a lot of pharmacists who are right now doing retail pharmacy and have their own businesses. So you really can't say specifically this is boring because people are able to kind of make that pivot to get into the to get into research or to get into pharmaceutical sales, to get into, so really think about it. Don't just automatically write a field off because you think that the day-to-day is boring. I mean, I had a young lady reach out to me who was thinking about veterinary school. When she says, oh, well, veterinary medicine is not that lucrative. I'm like, well, time out. Like, first things first, let's figure out if you even want to be a veterinarian. Like, let's figure that out first. Take as many internships as you can because there's agricultural veterinarians. Because, hey, the reason why goat cheese is expensive is because it's expensive to take care of them goats. They need good medical care. You also have to make sure that you are looking into the pharmaceutical research side. You need to make sure that like Royal Canin and all those in Purina are paying veterinarians a lot of money to develop nutritional programs for pets. So there's so many opportunities, just to say veterinarian is not just taking care of dogs and cats.
Yep. That's why it's important to research some of these fields that you think you may like, but you're unsure because you don't know what the day-to-day is, because sometimes someone's day-to-day may not be your day-to-day. So that's why you have to really stick to what's you. For example, you really have to know yourself and know what's good for you. Like, I'll give an example that's super simple about me. When I was in college, there's some electives that you have to take, some of them are, the artsy stuff. And a lot of people were like, oh, take the music class. This professor is very easy. You're just going to pass and be a breeze, But I really didn't care. I didn't really like music, but I really liked the arts. I liked learning about the different, eras, the Impressionists, Cubism. So I took the art and people were looking at me weird. Well, guess what? I didn't struggle in it because I really liked it. So you do have to really trust yourself, know thyself, and then go after what you think is right for you, but not what people are saying. Oh, this is what everyone's doing. This is what people are saying. So I'm going to do it. You do your own research. Don't necessarily go with what you hear about like a certain field. Do your own research. It might fit you, and your personality.
Right. And even
Yep.
even if you guys go to career services early, like that should be one of the first places you stop. And let them know, because you never know. Like I had people who thought they wanted to be in nursing and ended up in finance. And so,
Mhm.
working for Mutual of Omaha right now. Like, you know what I mean? Making great money. So because she had a little part-time job, working at an insurance company, and realized like, hey, I like this better. And there's no shame in that, which is one of the reasons why
Yeah.
that's what college is all about. So make sure that you're in career services, asking those questions to see who's hiring.
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
someone asking if project management is a mix of IT and business. It's actually a lot of business. Like an MBA will certainly take you through what project management is about, but project management is really being able to manage any projects, to know how to deal with a schedule, know
Mhm.
how to deal with a budget, how to make a budget, apply the budget to the project, be on time, be under budget, and making sure all your activities, are done. That's what like project management is about, and these skills you can apply it across the board. So that's why the certification I talked about before is well placed, because you can apply it in IT, you can apply it in telecommunications. There's a lot of people that just, that they are project managers, but it's not necessarily their field that they're in, the project managers in, but they just learn how to manage a project.
Right.
So it's it's
Exactly.
it's it's not necessarily like just IT. It's not necessarily a mix of IT, but
Mhm.
lots of IT people that want to move up do get that certification so
Right.
they can become a manager.
Right. And I mean, I think I've seen a lot of people use that project management certificate, even teachers I've seen do it.
Hmm.
So they can get grants for certain educational programs that can help struggling students. So I've seen everybody do it. And thanks to Real Deal Financial, who talked about how he knows of women in lucrative careers who have use that extra income to fund their own businesses. Having
Mhm.
Nice.
having that disposable income to invest or to move into something else.
Yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I really heavily and highly suggest just go for the money and
Yeah.
then you can
Yes,
find your passion.
yes, yes.
Go for the
Go for
money
the
and
money.
then,
Yes.
yeah, like when I got that whole like letters, like I'm thinking of doing something in liberal arts. No, make your money and then you can do something in liberal arts as a result.
I want to say,
Mhm.
Mocha Mommy, this was the show that I heard from you that really inspired me to contact you, because I'm like, oh my God, she is saying what I've been trying to tell everyone. Let me tell her how great she is for saying that. Just go for the money, get into the lucrative careers, because I think in the community, and no offense to anyone that's doing these things, we have too many teachers, too many
Mhm.
social workers. We need more
And too
lucrative
many nurses.
careers.
Yeah. Mhm.
Amen.
We need to bring up, the group, because that's how we're going to build a legacy and pass on to our children,
Amen.
is
Right.
by being these things. And you don't
Yes.
have to be a million. Yeah, you may not become a millionaire, but you'll be
Mhm.
doing really good. And I think that's what's missing. People don't know this in between that exists, where you live a very comfortable lifestyle, you do a lot of things that you like, you take great vacations, you live in great neighborhoods, but you're not a
Mhm.
millionaire. You're not I don't
Yes.
know. Yeah, you're not a multi-millionaire. You're not on TV. You're not famous, but you're living a
Mhm.
good life. And I think a lot of people are not really seeing that.
Mhm.
Right. And so the question now is there money in exercise science? I'm going to say yes and no. Being a
Hmm.
personal trainer, absolutely not. Um,
Mm.
but being a physical therapist, absolutely yes. And
Mhm.
a lot of people with that kinesthesiology, I'm sorry, kinesthesiology, a lot of people with that physical therapy, occupational therapy, they make very good money. Exercise
Mhm.
Yes.
scientists, nutrition, even sometimes some registered dietitians can really struggle to make good money.
Yeah.
So
True.
really, if you're really interested in that health and fitness, you want to get the cheapest degree possible, and you want to
Yeah.
network, intern, because
Ooh.
it is not going to just come out just with those credentials. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about exercise science. I do but I do concur with the physical therapist, because I do know a couple, and my eyes were opened a little bit last year by, like, for example, a lot of these people sometimes work in NICUs, neonatal intensive care units, and they charge a lot to work with those tiny babies, and it's
They
not
do.
necessarily hard work. Okay, it could be scary. I think I concur.
Yeah.
Right. but I agree with the physical therapist, and you can dictate a lot of your own hours. There is a lot of paperwork, though. That's what I learned. There's a lot of paperwork in that field. Yes, after you work with clients, but scratch that. You do make good money as a physical therapist.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You do. And a great work-life balance.
Yes, yes, great work-life balance, where you can be done working by 2, take your kids, from camp, and yeah, I concur.
Yeah. And I did want to say something about the personal trainer thing. I completely agree with Mocha Mommy about that. And I'm going to tell you guys, it can be a hit or miss with that. I personally have a best friend. She's a personal trainer. I mean, this girl looks great. She gets mistaken for like 25 all the time, and she's 45 years old. She looks awesome. She's a personal trainer. She has managed to make $100,000 personal training, but the only reason why is because she networks like crazy and she has a big following. So I honestly want to say, if you're going to go into that, you might want to keep that in mind. You're going to have to really network. You're going to have to really push every single day to put your services out there, because that's all she does is post. And she has a big following, and that's how she was able to generate that much income from being a personal trainer. So with that, it can really be a hit or miss. So I kind of agree with Mocha Mommy about the personal trainer thing.
But if you want to still do it, because I actually have like a work friend. She is a trainer. She leads exercise classes. That's what she does that part time. She is also an engineer, but she's always been into working out and fitness. So she did several certification, and she does that and make a little bit of extra money, but it's kind of like a hobby / I don't know, income. So it doesn't mean that you have to throw it away, but you can still continue to keep it in your life, and it might bring you opportunities, keep you healthy and do it. But you might want to pair it with doing something else.
Right. I mean, I definitely know of probably like the story of like the college softball World Series was definitely Odyssey. What was her name? Odyssey. I forget her name, but anyway, she was like an exercise science major in recreational therapy, something like that. A career where basically you're going to be a gym teacher, but basically her performance at the college softball World Series got her a very lucrative position with Dick's Sporting Goods. And she also got the attention of Jessica Mendoza, who is she's a vice president of baseball operations for the New York Mets. So again, you really have to be extremely visible if you're going to make money in exercise science. But I know a lot of people see that, hey, there's no money in exercise science, so guess what? They become chiropractors and podiatrists because that's really, it's the fundamentals of you have the same fundamentals, but we gotta really stop with this whole the most popular master's degrees among Black women is a master's of social work. We got to stop trying to save the community through our careers. You know what I mean? Save yourself.
Right. I think it's because a lot of people don't think they have what it takes to be in STEM. And I guess I invite everyone to break the cycles with the little ones that nieces, nephews, kids, and try to guide their studies, guide the school choices they're making while they're going to middle school, high school, so they can they can go through these fields, and encourage them to do certain career day events, so they can see other things, because I think a lot of our kids right now are just looking at the famous folks, and they're like, if I'm not famous or making millions, I'm nobody. But no, we need to show them differently. and then give them the confidence that they can do it. You can do it. You just have to use the resources. They're there. I see someone in the chat saying like, there's a lot of resources in school and college that you are paying for, but some people don't want to use it or they don't know about it. Use them. They're there.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just want to say to the Gen Zs, please don't get these emotional degrees. That's what I call them. Please, can we please get away from the emotional degrees? Like, oh God, please. Like, let's encourage them. Let's encourage going into healthcare, computer science, and all that stuff. Because, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a teacher. There's nothing wrong with going into those other services, but we got to get away from these. That's what I call them, these emotional degrees or these social justice warrior degrees, because I'm trying to tell y'all, in the long run, number one, you're not going to be making a lot of money. Okay. That's number one. Number two, you're going to be going to school for years and spending all of these student loans to become a social worker or get your bachelor's or your master's in social work. And you're going to come home every single day carrying those burdens, carrying those emotional issues that you have to deal with day in and day out for little pay. Is it worth it? Is it really worth it?
No. I mean, I had an aunt who was a teacher pull me aside and said, "Don't be a teacher."
Yep.
Like, she's like, don't be a teacher. She's like, no, because I thought I was going to, because I was like, I'm going to be a teacher and I would be a track coach. And she's like, no, you better not either. You know what I mean? And then and now the career I have, I can be a teacher. I can be, because, if you have a master's degree, some community college will always hire you to teach whatever it is you're in.
Yeah, exactly. That can be a fallback real quick. You don't need to learn it, because it's just a certification sometimes that you can just get. If you really want to pass it on, you can always do it. So I concur. Let's tell the younger generation, what's out there. There's a lot out there that people don't know about.
Right. So right now we're about an hour and 40 minutes. So we're just gonna close out, and I'll have you guys, you ladies, talk and say your closing statements and what you would like to encourage some of these young ladies to do in the future when it comes to careers in STEM. Loctony Princess, you want to go first?
Oh, sure. So, what I really want to touch on is, really sitting down and thinking about what's going to be the best career path for you. Don't allow any outside influences. Don't allow your how can I put this in a good way? Don't allow social influences to determine the career path that you want to go into. You want to go into something that is going to make you good money, and you want to be able to go to this job and be able to come home and not feel mentally burdened in getting little pay. Because you have to remember, this is going to be your lifestyle. You are in control of your lifestyle, and you are in control of your happiness when it comes to your career. Okay. And also for nurses, although I'm not a nurse, and please, if I'm wrong, somebody correct me. If you want to go into nursing, because I do have a lot of CRNA friends, a lot of times, especially if you happen to be Black, if you want to go into a CRNA program, the best thing for you to do is to get that ICU experience. That's what they want you to do. You have to get that ICU experience. It's required at least a year. Again, if I'm wrong, correct me. But a lot of my CRNA friends, 1 year ICU experience. Another thing that you need to look out for when it comes to that, a lot of them, they'll try to stir you away and they'll try to get you into med surg. Don't do it. Do not do it. Do not do it. Because what winds up happening is, if they convince you to go through the med surg route, what they're doing is, those ICU positions, they're giving it to the newcomers just coming in, or them little white girls, they're going to get it before you. So if they tell you to go through med surg to get that quote unquote experience to do CRNA, don't listen to that. Apply for that ICU position, get that 1 year experience, and then start applying to CRNA school. But that's what I wanted to say.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I want to say I'm tired of being sometimes the only Black girl when I go to certain conferences. So please join me.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of engineering field out there. I know tech is very hot right now, but it's not just tech. There's a lot of engineers needed to do a lot of things that you use every day. So consider a lot of these fields: civil, mechanical, even chemical that I was dogging earlier. It's really not that nuclear. So look into these fields. And then number two, network, network, network. Network does start the first day you start college, or even while you're in high school. If your parents have connections, if you happen to know other classmates and you know what their parents do, ask. Ask
Exactly.
about, do they have, some career day at work? Do they invite, they have sometimes a lot of these places have events. So just ask.
Right.
And so network, network, network. And in school, when you get out of school, it's even more important to network and continue to go to these events, belong to all these associations associated with your degree. For me, this is the Association of Civil Engineer, and then there's like the ITE too, transportation engineers. So belong to all these associations. It's also going to be priceless, and they also have student memberships. So after network, we do talk about getting the money, but while you're working, keep in mind, not all the time you should pursue the money, because sometimes what I've seen happen is being trapped in a position where you get paid a lot of money, but you cannot do anything else. And so you may be overpaid for what you're doing. And then you may feel like you cannot move and do anything else, especially, let's just say, you keep taking shit, but you cannot go outside of it because you are trapped, and what you do is not transferable. So make sure in a lot of positions that you're working in, that a lot of the skills that you are, whatever you're learning, whatever you're doing, is a transferable skill where you can do it in a lot of different places. So your years in this specific position is not lost, and you're not trapped, meaning that you can just move and work, get a different position, do move on to wherever, if you're not happy with what's happening where you are. So the money is important, but be very discerning when being offered certain position, to make sure that the skills there are transferable, and that you're not being just trapped and become a workhorse or something. So that's my last bit of advice. And again,
Right, exactly. So my advice would be to make sure that you're getting the academic support that you need, because that's going to be everything. It's going to stop you from getting that dead end job. It's going to stop you from being stuck in a position that you don't want. It's going to stop you from selling yourself out short. And it's also going to build your confidence. And a lot of your instructors and professors really do want to help you. A lot of your TAs and a lot of your academic support services really do want to help you. And make it a point to go to career services as soon as possible, whether you're a traditional student or a non-traditional student. You never know what company is hiring, looking for paid interns, looking for part-time workers, for people who work off shift, to make sure that you can get experience. And a lot of times, if you do a great job, guess what? They'll hire you on full-time and they'll give you tuition reimbursement. So please, guys, don't sell yourself short. Put yourselves out there. Be willing to take a risk and a chance on yourself, because there are so many great careers and great career opportunities out there, and you have the intelligence to do it if you're willing to put the work in and you're willing to have the courage to just step out and apply. So thank you, ladies, both so much for doing this live and giving your free time and giving all this information, because the Mocha Mommy channel, the more I'm looking at my analytics, it's getting younger and younger and younger. You know? Yeah. So, and it's just incredible, and it's like, I get a lot of people who comment who are in their, 30s, but a lot of the people who are viewing are in their 20s. Like my average subscriber literally is half my age. So guys, I might be Mocha Mommy, but you guys are the cool aunties who just really make this channel what it is. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Mocha Mommy. I really like your channel. I think you're doing great work, and you're not getting enough views for the type of analysis I see you put in. Sometimes I don't put two and two together, and you put it together for me, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
Well,
thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe we'll just leave it here with my little bit of subscribers, and then let it grow organically, because I know what it takes to grow a YouTube channel, and I'm not willing to go into the fray with these wolves, honey.
I get it.
Like, they're like, oh, get on this person's live, you'll get subscribers. Nope, you can have all the subscribers. I don't need them. Yeah. All so right. Thank you both so much.
Okay. Good night.
You.
Thank you.